Hello, morning, and welcome to the 18th episode of Football Heaven 24/7. I'm your host, Jamie Carter. Um, there was a fantastic weekend for football this weekend. Um, obviously, League One was already decided in the playoffs. Wycombe Wanderers are now through to the playoff final for League One. They lost 1-0 to MK Dons last night on Sunday. But they'd already won 2-0 from the first leg, so that's put them through two on aggregate. Who will face them in the final? It will be between Sheffield Wednesday and Sunderland tonight. I'm going to say 3-1 to Sheffield Wednesday, which would mean Sheffield Wednesday would go through 3-2 on aggregate. But obviously, we'll wait to see what happens with that. But that's happening tonight, obviously being Monday night. Anyway, I'm going to... Excuse me. Frog in my throat. Going to go on to the Premier League games and obviously talk a bit about that. And then obviously I'll do a focus on the Championship and then back onto League Two. There was a few surprises this weekend. There was a massive surprise in League Two, but we'll get to that very shortly. Anyway, going straight into the Premier League. Brentford were playing Southampton on the Saturday just gone. Southampton really didn't put up much of a fight. I was watching it on Sky Sports Soccer Saturday, and they were saying that the way that Brentford started, they got two early goals. I think they were 2-0 up after about 14 minutes. And Tim Sherwood said that it was gonna be like a cricket score if they continued the way there was. But as it was, Southampton retained some respectability. The score only ended 3-0 in the end. But that meant that Brentford went into the top half of the table for a bit. Great game for Brentford. Brentford have had a fantastic season. I'm sure most people will agree with me with that one. But 3-0, that's a fantastic result. Anyway, then there was Burnley against Aston Villa. Burnley obviously were fighting it out with Everton and Leeds for survival, basically, in the Premier League. But after a recent run of 4 wins out of the last 6, they had a really shocking result against Aston Villa. Goals from Watkins, Wendia, and Danny Ings returning to his former club meant that Aston Villa beat Burnley 3-1, which put Burnley back in trouble again. Waiting on the results from the Leeds and Everton games coming up that weekend. Anyway, Chelsea on Saturday as well. Chelsea was playing Wolves, and Chelsea, they took a little while to get going, but eventually went 2 goals up. 2 goals from Romelu Lukaku. Chelsea's new owner was in the stands. He looked quite shocked to see how slow it was to start off, but Chelsea were in for a bit of a surprise. 2 goals came back from Trincao and a really late goal from Connor Cody in the 97th minute meant that Wolves pulled off a bit of a shock and managed to get a point in a 2-2 draw, which kind of still kept Chelsea in third place, but meant that if Arsenal were to win on Sunday, that they would only be like a point off them. So anyway, there's a couple more games from Saturday. Crystal Palace were playing Watford. Watford were already pretty much down, but this confirmed it after Crystal Palace won 1-0. Penalty from Zaha. Patrick Vieira has been playing Zaha like a hell of a lot, and he's been putting him down for penalties this season, which has meant that Zaha's ended up with 14 goals. Had one of his best seasons he's had for a long time. So Patrick Vieira has done wonders because that put Palace into the top half of the table as well. Anyway, then there was a game in the evening which was of massive importance. Liverpool were playing Tottenham. Now, there was only still a point between Manchester City and Liverpool going into that game, and Liverpool obviously had a great comeback in the week after being 2-0 down to Villarreal in the second leg of the Champions League. But they won 3-2 in the end with 3 second-half goals. Obviously put them through to the final where they play Real Madrid. But I think I think it just took its toll because the way that Liverpool played obviously allowed Tottenham to come out and to attack them. And the first goal that was scored in the game was by Heung-min Son, who's had a great season. He's now on 20 goals, just two behind Mohamed Salah in the scoring charts, to finish with the Golden Boot with about 3 games left of the season. He got the first goal. It's great play by Spurs. But Liverpool got a goal back about 20 minutes or so later from Luis Diaz, which meant that the game finished 1-1. Now, obviously, that was advantage to Manchester City because now they were both level on points, on 83 points. So going into like the Sunday games, it was Arsenal and Leeds, Leicester City against Everton, Manchester City against Newcastle, and Norwich against West Ham. But Manchester City knew that if they won, they'd go 3 points clear instead of a point clear, which would make a massive difference with only 3 games to go for both teams. So anyway, the game started off. Manchester City got into quite an early lead through 2 goals. There was a goal from Laporte and there was a goal from Raheem Sterling, and that put them 2-0 up. And then there was goals from Rodri, another goal from Sterling, and another goal from Phil Foden, which basically meant that the game ended 5-0. So now Manchester City have a slightly better goal difference than Liverpool, and they're also 3 points clear of them. In my mind, that pretty much means that the title's going to be Manchester City's, although Manchester City have still got to go to Wolves away, they've still got to go to West Ham away, and then they've got to play Aston Villa at home. So there's still a slight chance in those away games that maybe Wolves or West Ham can take something off them, which will give Liverpool obviously a chance of getting back into the title race. So we'll see what happens. It's still not over yet, but you would say that Manchester City have been pretty ruthless in the last few games in the league. You know, they won 4-0 away at Leeds and won convincingly 5-0 against a Newcastle team that were on a really, really good run. But there we go. That's put Manchester City 3 points clear at the top of Liverpool anyway. So, but the other games from that weekend, Arsenal, they had to win to cement their 4th place position. And after Spurs got a draw against Liverpool, although that was a great result for Spurs, they dropped obviously a couple of points there. So that meant that if Arsenal were to win, that would put Arsenal 4 points clear of Spurs in that 4th place position, and they both got to play each other on Thursday night on Sky in a really important game. But anyway, Arsenal won 2-1. There was 2 goals from Nketiah. The first goal, it was absolutely crazy. The players were playing out from the back, the usual rubbish that I just can't stand it, to be honest. But it's something that's been learnt from abroad, from Pep Guardiola doing it at Manchester City. It works effectively for Manchester City because they've got high quality players. But some of the lesser teams like Leeds, they're not really, it's causing a few problems. And when the ball was passed back to the goalkeeper, he took too much time on it. And Eddie Nketiah, the youngster, he just basically snatched the ball off him near the goal line, smashed it into the back of the net. And Nketiah got another goal again to put Arsenal 2-0 up after 10 minutes. And Leeds, eventually, they got a goal back in the second half through Pascal Stroke, but it was too little too late for Leeds. And like I say, Arsenal won 2-1. That put them 4 points ahead of Spurs, who were in 5th. Going into that game, like I say, on Thursday, Spurs have really got to win that game. If Spurs lose that game, it's pretty much Arsenal's Champions League place, and Spurs will then end up in the Europa League, which I'm sure their fans will not be too happy about, considering they've had a really good run at the moment. But anyway, that's what happened in that game. But there was another 2 games on Sunday. Norwich City, they were already down the bottom of the league. They got absolutely smashed by West Ham. 2 goals from Barahima. Can't even say his name. Barahima. Barami even. Oh no. Antonio finally got a goal for the first time in a while. And then also Lanzini got on the score sheet with a late penalty as well. That meant 4-0 to West Ham. That kept West Ham in 7th position, getting really close to Manchester United after Manchester United had got absolutely smashed on the Saturday 4-0 by Brighton. That was an absolute shock. The Manchester United fans were singing in that game when Brighton beat Manchester United 4-0 you're not fit to wear the shirt. Now, when Bruno Fernandes was interviewed, he said that was right, that they weren't fit to wear it. But Manchester United have had an absolutely shocking season. When I look at it on paper, they've got a squad that's better than probably Arsenal's and Chelsea's, you know what I mean, as far as experience and stuff like that. But they just seem to have gone a bit downhill. I think they shouldn't have got rid of Solskjaer. They should have kept Solskjaer until the end of the season, even though he had a little run where things faltered. Because when you look at Manchester United last season, yeah, okay, it was COVID was still going on, and there was a lot of the atmospheres weren't there because obviously the fans weren't there in the ground. But Manchester United have finished second to Manchester City last season, I think by only 12 points. So to go from second to drop down to potentially looking like they're going to finish sixth this season, and in the Europa League, it's just not good enough. Anyway, there we go. But Manchester United struggling. One more game, really crucial. Obviously, Leeds had lost 2-1 to Arsenal, and also Burnley had lost 3-1. So it was advantage to Everton if Everton could get a result, and it would mean that Everton would go outside of the relegation zone, and Leeds would drop into that place. And that's exactly what happened. Everton got 2 early goals. Well, sorry, they got an early goal on the 6th minute. Absolute stunner by Mykolenko, the Ukrainian defender. He smashed it in from about 25 yards. But then Leicester City got one back through Patson Daka on the 11th minute. And then Everton basically got one back from a corner from Mason Holgate's header. And that made it 2-1. The game stayed at 2-1, although there was a few chances either side. But that meant that Everton go outside of the relegation zone. They're now on 34 points. And then there's Burnley with 34 and Leeds with 34. So Everton have the advantage. Everton have a game in hand also on Burnley and Leeds. So that'll be interesting to see what turns out in those games. There's a few Premier League games obviously this week. Like I say, Tottenham are playing at home to Arsenal. I'm going to say 2-1 to Tottenham in that game. That's on Thursday night this week coming up. And there's some other games going on, which I'll obviously reflect on in a bit. But I'm going to go straight into the Championship. It was the final day of the season. All the games were at 12:30 on Saturday. There was a couple of key games that I'm going to focus on. Fulham and Bournemouth had already been promoted. Forest were away at Hull. Now, Forest, if they won that game, they'd finish third. And then Huddersfield were playing at home to Bristol City. Now, Forest, they took the lead on the 92nd minute in injury time right at the end of the game through a Brennan Johnson penalty. Now, at that point, they were going to finish third. Huddersfield had won their game 2-0 against Bristol City, but at that point, they were going to finish third, which meant they would have played Luton in the playoffs. But then, unfortunately, Lewis Potter, the outstanding player for Hull City this season, the youngster, he got a goal in the 94th minute, which meant that Huddersfield finished above Forest. Huddersfield finished third. Forest finished fourth. Sheffield United, they won 4-0 at home to Fulham through goals from Gibbs White and Dye, Berg and Stevens. And that meant that Forest ended up playing Sheffield United. Luton had won 1-0 narrowly at home to Reading. That kept them in the playoffs. Middlesbrough and Blackburn, who were also, well, mainly Middlesbrough, they had a chance of maybe sneaking in if Luton had lost. But Middlesbrough, they lost 4-1 away at Preston. So basically what that meant was that Luton finished in that last playoff place. Now, those ties are going to be played later. Yeah, sorry, those ties are going to be played later in the week. On Friday, Luton will play Huddersfield Town in the first leg, and then Forest are away at Sheffield United on Saturday coming up this week. Now, out of those two, I'm going to do some predictions. I'm going to say Luton to basically draw with Huddersfield 1-1 in the first leg. And I'll say that Forest will draw 2-2 with Sheffield United away. And then there's another game on the Saturday, which is in League Two, but I'll focus on that in a bit. But anyway, yeah, focusing more on the Championship. Um, Blackburn Rovers, Tony Mowbray had been their manager for the last, I believe it was 7 or 8 years. He'd done a fantastic job with not much resources. He didn't have much money to spend. Um, they was away at Birmingham. They won 2-1. Goals from Buckley and Brereton Diaz, who had a great season. Um, only just finished behind Solanke, well, quite a bit behind Solanke and Mitrovic as top goal scorer. Mitrovic finished the season with 43 goals, which is equaling a record that was set by Brian Clough back in the 50s for Sunderland. Solanke finished second on the goal scoring charts with 29, and Brereton Diaz ended up with 22 goals. Now, as I say, Blackburn won 2-1 on Tony Mowbray's last game, but there was nothing really to play for. Blackburn finished in a respectable 8th position, but they were a lot higher in the league in the early stages of the season, and it really looked like they were going to end up in the playoffs quite easily. But they had a run of quite poor results towards the end of the season, which left them just outside. But still, when you look at it overall, you look at Blackburn's team. They had a fantastic season, and I really rate them for that. Bournemouth, Millwall had a chance of getting into playoffs slightly, but they still lost at home 1-0 to Bournemouth. Away at Bournemouth 1-0. Kiefer Moore scored again after scoring against Forest in that crucial game in the week. Bournemouth were already promoted, but obviously they were playing for pride in front of the home fans on the last day of the season. Derby already down. They lost 1-0 to Cardiff City. A goal by Jordan Hugill. And then Huddersfield, as I said earlier, they won 2-0 in their game, which made them finish the season in third. They've had a fantastic season. Surpassed all expectations, really, after finishing last season in I believe, they finished 18th last season, or 17th. So they had a great season. As I said, Forest drew away at Hull. Luton won 1-0. And Peterborough, they were already down, but they put in a great performance at home to Blackpool. They won 5-0. Goals from Clark, Harris, 2 from Schmodix, Marriott and Taylor scored. And then, like I say, Brentford won 4-1 at home to Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough still had an outside chance at the playoffs, but they got absolutely smashed by Preston. Brown, a goal by Brown, an own goal by Fry, and 2 goals by Jacobson. Sheffield United, like I said, won 4-0. Stoke City drew 1-1 with Coventry. Swansea lost 1-0 against QPR at home. And West Bromwich Albion, who had a really bad season and finished 10th, by their standards anyway, they beat Barnsley, who were already relegated 4-0. So, yeah, I mean, like I say, Huddersfield are playing away at Luton on Friday in the first leg. Forest are away at Sheffield United. The return legs will obviously be then the following week, which will obviously cover. I'll do a preview of any of the weekend's action, because there's going to be Premier League games on Sunday, and conference games are going to be on Sunday this weekend coming up. So obviously I'll do a preview of those on Friday coming up. But anyway, we're going to look into League Two, and there was some really massive shocks. League Two went a bit crazy, to be fair. So there was a fight for the League Two title. Forest Green, they were playing away at Mansfield Town. Now, they knew if they could get a better result than Exeter, that they would win the league title. It was as simple as that, really. And like I say, they were away at Mansfield. Now, that game finished 2-2, which meant obviously Forest Green had a point. Now, Forest Green were already a point ahead at the start of the day. Oh no, sorry, they were a point behind at the start of the day, but they had a better goal difference than Exeter. And basically, going into the Exeter game, they was at home to Port Vale, but Port Vale, they had to win to get into the playoffs. So there was a lot at stake in that game. Now, Port Vale had their manager who just come back, Darrell Clark, from a family bereavement. And he inspired them to get a 1-0 away at Exeter. Now, that just meant that Exeter, who had been on a really good run, it meant they lost out on the title. Forest Green obviously won on goal difference. It was mad. They both finished on 84 points. But Forest Green won the title. Exeter, like I say, finished second. But then, of course, there was a battle between Northampton and Bristol Rovers to get into that final third position to get automatic promotion. And this is where the madness really begins, because it was completely unexpected. Now, Northampton, they was away at Barrow and they raced into a 3-goal lead. They were 3-0 up after 22 minutes, and that meant that Bristol Rovers would have to win by like 7 goals to win the game. Barrow got a goal back just before half time, which meant it was 3-1. Now that's how the game stayed 3-1. Now Scunthorpe were playing away at Bristol Rovers, and Scunthorpe have been getting smashed this season. They've had an absolutely awful season. They finished on minus 61 goal difference, which is shocking. Worst season in their history. They're down. Obviously, I've banged on about it a lot because obviously I'm passionate because it's one of my 2 teams that I support. But anyway, they had to win 7-0. Now they played the game. They got the 7 goals. They won 7-0. But the fans, when the final goal went in on the 85th minute through Elliot Anderson, all the fans jumped on. Well, a lot of the fans came onto the pitch to celebrate, which I know, yeah, obviously you're excited because, from unspeakable being so far behind, and you don't see your team win 7-0 very often. They got that exact goal difference that they needed, but they jumped on the pitch, which meant there was like a 15-minute delay. Now, Joey Barton, their manager, a few other people got on the microphone saying, please, can you get back? We don't want this game getting called off. We need this game to continue, because obviously if it continues, we get promoted. So, and if it stays the same way, and that's what happened. Eventually, the fans did get off the pitch, and they were able to play out the last sort of 10 minutes of the game, 10 to 15 minutes. And the game did finish, 7-0 to Bristol Rovers, which meant that they got automatically promoted now. Big shout out to a couple of me Bristol Rovers friends who watched this. That was a fantastic what you did. If it wasn't for the fact that we were already relegated and we'd already had a shocking season and we had 6 youth players that we fielded, which some people were whinging about, saying that to do with the integrity of the game and everything. But really, I know why Keith Hill, the Scunthorpe manager, did that. I mean, Scunthorpe, they had nothing else to play for. It was an awful season for them. I know there's an argument probably from the Northampton fans and things that we should have fielded a stronger team. But even in all honesty, if we had fielded our strongest team, Bristol Rovers could have still probably beaten us 5-6-7-0. Do you know what I mean? So they were fighting for it. Scunthorpe had nothing in them. The fire's gone. As I said earlier, it's the most shocking team I've ever seen. But yeah, anyway, they got into the 3rd position. Now, obviously, the other playoff places were up for grabs. Northampton dropped into the 4th place and back into the playoffs, where they ended up with Port Vale, who obviously finished in the playoffs in 5th. As I said earlier, they won 1-0 away at what would have been potential champions Exeter, but that meant Exeter, like I said, finished 2nd. Also, Swindon were playing away at Walsall and they won 3-0, which cemented their place in the playoffs. And that point that Mansfield got at home to Forest Green, who obviously eventually won the title after that game finished 2-2. That kept them in the playoffs. Teams that finished just outside, who had a chance of getting into the playoffs, was Sutton United. They won 2-0 away at Harrogate Town, so they did what was required of them, but it wasn't enough to get them in the playoffs. And Tranmere also did what was required of them, winning 1-0 away at Leyton Orient. But as I said, that wasn't enough for them to get in. Salford had muffed it up the week before, and they got smashed by Stevenage, who had a great run at home. They won 4-2. Obviously, they stayed up along with Barrow and Carlisle, the teams that were down there. Oldham and Scunthorpe went down. Oldham, they put up a little bit of a fight for their fans at home to Crawley, drawing 3-3. But obviously, they were down, like I said earlier. Bradford City, they had a massive bumper crowd. I believe they still do season tickets for something crazy like £150 a season or something mad like that, which means that they get a lot of fans, which is a great idea for any team on that level, to be honest, to get massive crowds in. But they had an 18,000 crowd. They had a pretty mediocre season considering the resources they've got and the money that they've got. They finished 14th, but they beat Carlisle United 2-0. And then looking at other games, Hartlepool and Colchester, there was nothing really to play for, but Colchester won 2-0 there. Newport County lost 2-0 at home to Rochdale. There was nothing going on there, really. Newport didn't have a chance of playoffs or anything. And that's pretty much all the games from League Two. Now, like I say, Northampton now will have to go and play away at Mansfield Town. That's on Saturday. And Port Vale will play Swindon in the playoffs. And their first game is on a Sunday at Swindon. So be interesting to see who comes out on top. I personally think that in my mind it'll be a Swindon against I'm going to say Swindon against Mansfield final, but we'll see what pans out. In my heart of hearts, I don't know, I've got my Forest training top on, but I think that Forest will end up just getting past Sheffield United, even though Sheffield United are on a good run. And I think that they'll end up playing Huddersfield Town in the final. So that's what my predictions are for those games. I'll look a bit more in depth as we get closer to the weekend on the Friday. There was, like I say, a massive drama there. That goal swing, like I say, Bristol Rovers only just going up on the fact that they've scored more goals than Northampton Town have done for themselves. But they both had the same plus 22 goal difference. So very narrow there, very dramatic. As I say, Bristol Rovers are probably the team of the weekend. They had a fantastic result there. And I said, under most circumstances, I'd be absolutely gutted to lose 7-0. But because it was good friends of mine that they got to celebrate going up, it was fantastic for Bristol. Bristol really is a great city, and they deserve to have two Premier League teams, really, because they're so well supported. Rovers, I'm pretty sure if they had a bigger ground, they would have even more fans in there if they were at a championship level. But anyway, yeah, great result for them. They go up, as I say. There wasn't really any change in the playoffs in the championship. The four teams that were there at the start of the day ended up there at the start of the day. Just that Forest and Huddersfield changed round positions. So it's been a great season, Peterborough, Derby and Barnsley did go down, obviously, ages ago from the Championship. In League Two, Oldham and Scunthorpe had already gone down. Norwich and Watford are down to the Championship next season in the Premier League. And as I said, it's still a fight out between Leeds, Burnley and Everton for that last relegation place, with 3 more games to go. And also, as I said earlier, Manchester City, they're 3 points clear now of Liverpool. And the fact that Liverpool obviously drew 1-1 and that Manchester City won emphatically 5-0 against Newcastle United. Like I say, thank you for liking and subscribing. I sort of rattled this one off a bit quickly this morning for you. I hope you have a great week. Whoever your team is, if they're in the playoffs, good luck to them. If you get promoted, if you've been promoted, good luck for next season. Also, if you've been relegated, good luck in the new league that you'll be in next season. It's been a great season. Also, what I'll do is I'll just say one more thing. Dominic Telford, he finished top in the goal scoring charts in League Two. And Ben Stevens finished second for Forest Green with 23. And then McCurdy finished for Swindon with 20. But having said that, McCurdy, because he's in the playoffs, he could still end up finishing maybe even second. If he gets 6 goals, he'll finish top. But I think it's safe to say Dominic Telford's finished top there for Newport County with 25. Anyway, great seasons for a lot of teams, some bad seasons for others, but that's just the luck of the draw, how it goes. Someone's got to finish bottom up, unfortunately, and someone's got to get promoted. But thank you for watching. Like I said earlier, have a great week. I've been your host, Jamie Carter. I'll do another episode on Friday. And have a great week. All the best. Bye for now.